From the mountains he comes. A brief introduction to the Vajra master Jinke Xuanlei. Practiced in the deep mountains to become a Dharmakaya master. In December 1958, in Yizhou, Guangxi Autonomous Region of China, the Vajra master Jinke Xuanlei was born. During his early childhood, he had the great fortune to be ferried over by the hermit, His Greatness Master Jinke, a great Dharma Raja of esoteric Buddhism. In the Lianyin Mountains, he was given the Dharma name Jinke Xuanlei in his initiation into esoteric Buddhism, his master bestowing him with Vajrayana Abhisheka. For more than 10 years, with immense concentration and rigid austerity, the Vajra master Jinke Xuanlei practiced esoteric Buddhism and achieved wholly complete enlightenment. During this time, with guidance from his master, he studied and practiced Mahavairokkana Sutra, Vajrasakhara Sutra, Susiddhikara Sutra, fundamentals of Tripitaka, the Sutra of Perfect Enlightenment, esoteric baptism by master, Yoga Yogi Sutra, Ganavyoha Sutra, Avatamsaka Sutra, Sarangama Sutra, the Dharma to reach the holy world by Dharani, Humane King Sutra, Bodhisattva Sutra, commentary on the Mahayana treatise, Sun and Moon, Jinke Mandala Vajradhatu, and Garbhadhatu Esoteric Tripitaka, esoteric inner Dharma sequential meditation, Riddhi Saksat Kriya, Shila and Vinaya, and many other classics of Confucianism, Buddhism, and Taoism. Upon reaching enlightenment, he was fully awakened to the esoteric essences of the Tathagata, mastered the 5 ancient sciences, and attained the complete truth of all Dharma. His spirit ascended into the divine realm of the Buddhas, and there he was protected by the Mahavairokkana to reach Buddhahood and to attain divine wisdoms from enlightenment and inherit the lineage of the Dharmakaya essences from the Tathagata within the Jinke Sadama. The Samogakaya of the Bodhisattva Manjusri manifested in front of him while in a state of deep meditation, bestowing on him Abhisheka and taught him the most complete doctrines of Anatta Yoga. Many might know that the Vajra master Jinke Xuanlei was born and raised in Guangxi, was introduced to and practiced esoteric Buddhism, but few know of the rigorous hardships he had to overcome. Into the depths of the freezing, windswept forest he went. There within the desolate wilderness, the sky was his tent, and the earth his bed in the domain of snakes and ferocious beasts. Battling with the extremes of the natural world all year round and deprived of all necessities, fruits and dew were all there was. In the mists of mountain peaks he meditated, and in the flow of mountain streams he exercised day in and day out. He suffered hardships none had suffered before, and endured pains none have suffered since. There is a saying in Chinese, "He who is enjoying the tastes of fruit often forgets the hardships of those who cultivate." Even with his endurance stretched beyond the bounds, he eventually conquered all in his path to become a Mahasiddha of perfect enlightenment. The brutal forces of nature have made his will as strong as steel, and the infinite information of the cosmos has given him the strength to overcome all worldly thoughts and enter prajna sainthood. After all his achievements, he did not forget about the people. With an all-merciful heart, he left the mountains to be amongst them for the benefit of all. An overview to the lineage of Sino-Esoteric Buddhism. Sino-Esoteric Buddhism is also known as Vajrayana Buddhism. It originally came to prominence during the Kaiyuan period of the Tang dynasty, when Indian Mahasiddhas of the Madhyamaka school and Yogacara school of Mahayana Buddhism brought Vajrayana Buddhism to the royal court of China. Sabakarasimha came via the inland Silk Road. Vajrabodhi and his disciple Amoghavajra travelled by the maritime Silk Road. As such, the practitioners now revere Vajrabodhi as the founder of Sino-Esoteric Buddhism and his disciple Amoghavajra as his successor. These Mahasiddhas translated enormous volumes of Buddhist sutras from Sanskrit to Chinese that continue to benefit the generations thereafter. Huilang was appointed successor by Amoga Vajra, the provenance of this lineage to be found in many historical documents. As the end of the middle days of law approached towards the end of the latter periods of the Tang dynasty, Skandamaras entered the human realm, reborn as humans. Filled with the obsession of imperialism, the Emperor Wuzong began the great anti-Buddhist persecution, which caused the decline of Buddhism in China. Many assumed that Sino-esoteric Buddhism started to diminish during this period, even though later during the Song dynasty there were many virtuous Dhammacharyas such as Shi Tuan, Shi Hu, and Faxian. They continued to translate sutras and propagate Buddha Dharma, but there was no enlightened master to carry on the lineage of esoteric Abhisheka, thus leading to the belief that esoteric Buddhism had disappeared after the Yuan dynasty. It is thought by popular belief that between exoteric and esoteric Buddhism, that esoteric Buddhism was the first to perish, and between the Dhammamatha sect and the Weishe school, Weishe was the first to fade away. What is generally not known is that neither esoteric Buddhism or the Weishe school disappeared, but took refuge in the mountains to continue passing down their lineages in secret. The lineage of the Dhammakaya embodiment has been passed down since the latter period of the Tang dynasty. This has been passed down to many great masters such as Master Qizheng Xinghai, Master Erlung Jiramo, Master Baiyin Duda, Master Jinyin, and Master Jinke Xuanlei, within the deep mountain forests of Dian, Gui, Qian regions of China. These Mahasiddhas lived in seclusion to practice esoteric Buddhism. Years of hardship and deep meditation gave them access to pure and untainted wisdoms of the Vajrayana Samadhi. On attaining such wisdoms, they would be covered with radiance from the truth of the Vajrayana Buddhism, and their Dhammakayas would shine on the entire Buddhist world in the 10 directions. Their divine spirits would reach the realm of the Buddhas to embody the Tathagata's photon-like Dhammakaya, neither whence nor whither, both real and unreal, no death or birth, and be always enlightened in all of eternity. Because of the dependent origination and the wills of sentient beings had not reached its full potential during the Mapo era, these great masters remained in the deep mountains to ferry over willing sentient beings in the Dharma world, and those in our world who possess enough deeds of blessed virtues, Buddha nature, wisdom, and temperament. The ultimate goals of practicing Sino-esoteric Buddhism are to attain Buddhahood and also to teach the doctrines of the Buddha to all sentient beings. Sino-esoteric Buddhism therefore also pays great attention to the exoteric methods of practicing the Dharma. When facing the practitioners of the Dhammamatha seksha and the Weishe school, Sino-esoteric Buddhism chooses different methods to teach the true meanings of sunyata and bhava based on the temperament of each individual. These methods are also combined with esoteric practices to attain different levels of enlightenment. The essences of Sino-esoteric Buddhism lie in the lineage of Dhammakaya embodiment through esoteric practices of the Mahasamaya Dharma. Because of its method of transmission, non-esoteric practitioners would not have access to know of its existence. The Chinese imperial families had always believed in Sino-esoteric Buddhism, but they were bound by the vows of Samaya to keep a tight seal on the rituals of Dharani from the esoteric essences. Unsanctioned transmission to others was strictly prohibited. It was very hard for the general populace to know that the true natures of Sino-esoteric Buddhism, this resulting in the assumption that it had disappeared from the Han region. The real truth was that it had only disappeared from the mainstreams of Buddhism, but disappearing does not mean it had perished. The lineage of embodying Tathagata's Dhammakaya will never perish, and it is the same for all the esoteric essences of the Tathagata. When the dependent origination for its existence has perished, it will be concealed, and when the dependent origination for its existence has been met, it will reappear again. This is the truth of all Dharma, and forever will be so. The Shingon sect, the Tiandai sect, the Tibetan sect, and the miscellaneous sect of esoteric Buddhism all originated from the doctrines of the Mahavairocana. The true Dharani from the esoteric essences of the Tathagata's Dhammakaya had always remained in the Han region of China, not in Japan. It had continued passing down its lineage of Dhammakaya embodiment in the deep mountains. The essences of Sino-esoteric Buddhism were never lost. Its lineage does not pass down by the simple teaching of doctrines, by the general spreading of sutras, by performing rituals, by the symbolic inheritance of robes, arm bowls and relics, and nor does it by academic research of Buddhism theories and cultures. Its essences lie in following the teachings of enlightened masters when Siddharma appears in response to setting in motion the wheels of the Dharma. When such a master is present, Siddharma will propagate in the world. When such a master is not present, Siddharma remains hidden. The esoteric teachings of the Buddha's Siddharma lies in the confirmation of the universal truth through practicing. An awakened one is virtuous with wholly complete enlightenment. His Dharmakaya will remain in this world while connecting directly with the divine realm of the Tathagata. Hence the meaning in the lineage of Dharmakaya embodiment will never cease. Those who do not understand the power of this wisdom could only use the righteous to do the deed of evil. The esoteric essences of the Tathagata within Jinke Siddharma are the Anattara Yoga taught through speech and mind by a Vajra master who had embodied the Dharmakaya of Tathagata. It is the ultimate Vajrayana Buddhism of secret within a secret that is both exoteric and esoteric. It had accumulated the fundamental practicing principles of all Buddhas before and include all the rituals of Dharani from the esoteric essences in mandalas. These masters are fully awakened ones with boundless wisdoms and the insights to all truth. They are the truth of the universe, the wisdom in all dharmas, and the guide to reach enlightenment. Walking out of the deep mountains to give salvation with higher knowledge. In 1983, the Vajra master Jinke Xuanlei had emerged from his practice in the mountains to visit numerous remote and poverty-stricken regions in Guangxi, China, such as Heche, Yishan, Nandan, Huanjiang, Luocheng, Tian'e, Bama, Shanglin, Du'an, Baise, Longzhou, Fengshan, where he helped and healed thousands of afflicted for free, propagated the Buddha Dharma, gave salvation to those in torment. The people he encountered showered him with love and esteem. He later went back to the deep mountains of the Guangxi Autonomous Region, to Lianyin Mountain, to continue with his secluded esoteric meditation at the end of the year. Master Jinke Xuanlei came down from the mountains again in May of 1993. The master started to propagate the Buddha Dharma and also to heal the afflicted in Nanning, capital of the Guangxi Autonomous Region. Great sensations arose all over the region wherever he went in the most extraordinary fashion. From there on, he was invited to Beijing, Shanghai, Guangdong, Hainan, Hubei, Xinjiang, Inner Mongolia, Tibet, Heilongjiang, Hong Kong, then overseas to Thailand, Vietnam, Malaysia, Sri Lanka, Singapore, Indonesia, Japan, USA, Canada, Australia, France, Palau, and the UAE to propagate the Buddha Dharma and to save all who are willing from torment with his compassion and mercy. Since then, tens of thousands of people have been treated by the Master. Most of them improved greatly. Many were with fatal and obstinate diseases. He is pouring out his heart and soul to grant health and happiness to all sentient beings. In the past 3 decades, his footsteps have been all over the world, from the remote villages of the south to the bustling metropolises of the north, whether walking or driving, to poor village hut or glamorous palace. As long as there are people who have the will to be enlightened, he will save them all from torment with sincerity. For the rich or the poor, the powerful or the powerless, his compassion and arduousness have made an indelible impression deep in the hearts of all who have ever met him. Endless times he has healed those with fatal diseases and saved them right from under the hand of death by bearing all their deeds. Endless other times he has given salvation to those under torment and misfortunes through the strength of his divine powers. His illustrious divine powers shocked those who have witnessed and experienced them personally. The encounter has left an imprint on their souls for all of eternity. It is no coincidence that people have faith, respect, and trust in the Master. The pure reflection of his virtue is shown by the remarkable tales of his extraordinary actions, which are both legendary and numerous. The fame of Master Xuanlei has been spread around the world, bringing many government officials such as Vice Chairman of the CPP-CC National Committee and Minister of the United Front, Work Department of the CPC Central Committee, Mr. Wang Zhaoguo, Vice Chairman of the National People's Congress, Mr. Li Jianguo, Vice Chairman of the CPP-CC National Committee and Chairman of Chinese Buddhist Association, Mr. Zhao Puchu, Ministers of the Ministry of Public Health, Mr. Tui Yu Li and Ms. He Jianshang, and Mr. Zhang Wenkang. The first Doctor of Integrated Western and Chinese Medicine in China, Ms. Wu Jiying, Academician of Chinese Academy of Sciences, Mr. Tian Jiajian, Permanent Academician of Chinese Academy of Sciences, Mr. Niu Shi-wei, Director of Institute of High Energy Physics, Chinese Academy of Sciences and Academician of New York Academy of Sciences, Mr. Zhang Zhipeng, Doctor of Aeronautics and Space in the USA, Mr. Li Junyong, numerous politicians, entrepreneurs, renowned scientists, specialists, scholars, and eminent persons from both home and abroad have given high praises and dedications to the Master, bringing both national and international focus on the Master. Interviews and reports of the Master have been published by many magazines, news and media outlets, including Asian TV, Guangxi TV, Nanning TV, Xinhao News, People's Daily, CPPCC News, Wen Waipo, Guangxi Daily, Nanning Evening, Hong Kong Business, American New World Times, American Chinese Business, World Chinese Weekly in Canada, Top China, Golden Ages, Chinese Children, Sword, China Old Age Paper, Sports News, Who's Who in the World, The Hindu, The Pioneer, Z News, India Today, The Hindustan, Business Standards, the Indonesia International Daily News, the Indonesia Xin Bao and World Buddhism Forum. An awakened master who had mastered the 5 ancient sciences. Numerous awards and honours were bestowed upon the Vajra Master Jinke Xuanlei from various organisations around the world, such as the Doctor of Medicine degree from the Open International University, which is affiliated with the WHO of the UN, the Fellowship Register of the Royal Complementary Practitioner, issued by the Complementary Medicine and Medicine Alternative Institute of the Open International University, the Royal Physician Certificate of Excellence given by the Ancient Order of Kings, the Achievement Awards of Human Green Medicine from the World Natural Medicine Organization, the world-famous Doctor Award granted by the World Peace Foundation of the UN NGO, the Doctorate of Honor Doctor issued by the World Research Center for Celebrity Culture of USA, the Achievement Award of Art in China, Contemporary Calligraphy and Painting, and he was also invited to be the council member of the Red Cross Society of China. In 2014, the artworks of the Master were showcased at the Louvre Museum in France to honour the 50th anniversary of the establishment of Sino-France diplomatic relations, where the award of traditional art was given to the Master by the International Exhibition of Eastern Art in Paris. The divine paintings and calligraphies by the Vajra Master Jinke Xuanlei are drawn by arranging the mandala according to the sadhana of Jinke Mandala. Before he starts to work on each of his paintings or calligraphies, the Master will pray to all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and guardians of the heavenly realms for them to descend onto the mandala by envisaging and chanting mantras, reciting sutras, forming mudras, embodying the Dharmakaya, his spirit reaching the realm of the divine and connecting directly with the top of Mount Meru. By concentrating the powers of the wisdom of the Vajra onto the brush, the Vajra Master Jinke Xuanlei can write with the brush levitated in the air. The artworks possess miraculous powers of blessing. It cannot be compared with the techniques of regular artworks. The meaning behind each artwork are the most extraordinary and the easier approach given by the master to practice the Dharma that is filled with deep and profound esoteric meanings, a most treasured holy jewel bestowed by the master to his disciples and to those who are connected with Buddhism. Many leaders, both home and abroad, as well as many high-ranking officials of the CPPCC and eminent persons, have had the chance to treasure and praise the master's paintings and calligraphies. The chairman of the Buddhist Association of China, vice president of CPPCC, Mr. Zhao Puchu, had said before, "The paintings and calligraphies of the master Jinke Xuanlei have filled in the great void in Buddhism art." The curator of National Art Museum of China, Mr. Fan Dian, praised the calligraphy of the master Jinke Xuanlei with, "Where it seems to be formless, there is structure. Where there seems to be structure, there is no form. Its richness in texture is full of tenacity, charm, and the flow of qi is fluent and potent. It is an art form all on its own that could only be described as a wonder that could not be copied." The curator's inscription of the master was, "An inspiration of heaven and earth for the benefit of mankind." Mr. Wu Jiaogui, a famous Chinese calligrapher, had said with deep emotion, "The calligraphy of the Vajra master Jinke Xuanlei is neither Yan, Wang or Zhao style. The master does not have to follow the traditional rules of regular script, clerical script, nor seal characters. It is truly a unique form of painting and calligraphy." The curator of the National Art Museum of China, Mr. Wu Weishan, praised that the master's artworks had established new traditions and were magnificent. His inscription to the master was, "The brush that can control wind and rain." The China Public Diplomacy Association and the Artist Association of China joined together and organized the grand opening ceremony of Colorful Asian Cultural China International Art Exhibition at Times Art Museum of Beijing on November 10th of 2014. The organizing committee specially invited the master to showcase his magnificent works of wisdom, namely the Vajra of Wisdom and the Eastern Dragon and other works. The People's Daily, Xinhua News, and many other media reported the exhibition extensively. Diplomats from Jamaica, Italy, Portugal, Venezuela, Colombia, and many other countries invited the master to visit their countries to raise awareness of Sino-esoteric Buddhism, to showcase the masterpieces of Sino-esoteric Buddhism mandala to their people. Sino-esoteric Buddhism connects the world. During October 1st to October 25th of 2009, the Vajra master Jinke Xuanlei travelled over land and sea to bring the wisdom seed of Bodhi to America to give salvation to those worthy. On October the 11th, World Peace Day, with the invitation from the organising committee, the Vajra master Jinke Xuanlei presided over World Peace Praying Ceremony held in Washington Square to pray for world peace and the happiness of all sentient beings. Believers from different religious backgrounds, Muslims, Catholics, Christians and others, peace lovers and eminent persons from around the world attended the praying ceremony. The Master was majestic, compassionate and merciful. He blessed all believers by touching their heads to purify their deeds, gave them wisdom and happiness and planted the seed of wisdom in them. At the ruins of the World Trade Center in New York, the Vajra master Jinke Xuanlei and his disciples held a ceremony on October 17 to pray for all Buddhas of 10 directions and realms to come and release the souls of the victims of the 9/11 from purgatory. On October the 23rd, the Vajra master Jinke Xuanlei went to the Memorial Hall of Pearl Harbor to release the souls of soldiers who had died in the attack on Pearl Harbor during World War II from purgatory. May they all reach the gates of heaven. January 2011 saw the warmest invitation from the Canadian Senator Mr. Roger Pomerleau MP to the Vajra master Jinke Xuanlei to visit Vancouver in Canada. He welcomed the Master and praised him for all his contributions and efforts in promoting mutual understanding between the citizens of both countries and for engaging in religious and cultural exchange events. During the Master's trip in Canada, he also met with the Senator Derek Lee MP, Minister for Industry Mr. Christian Paradis, Special Assistant to the former Prime Minister of Canada Mr. Mark Keeley, former Minister of Culture of Ontario, Mr. David Shiboshi, Special Ambassador of the Japanese Culture Centre, Mr. Sid Kyoshi Ikeda, and elite Canadian Chinese and others from all walks of life in Canada. The Master propagated the Buddha Dharma and enlightened them with the truth of its life. With the sincere invitation from the Mayor of Markham in Ontario, Mr. Frank Scarpitti, the Vajra Master and his disciples attended the Japanese earthquake relief fundraising banquet. The Master prayed together with everyone for the earthquake-struck Japanese people to release the souls of those who died during the earthquake so they may find peace in heaven. By the official invitation of the President Tommy E. Rimangasao Jr. of Palau, the Vajra Master Jinke Xuanlei and members of the Sino-Esoteric Buddhism Association arrived on September the 30th. They joined in the celebration of the 20th anniversary of the independence of Palau. On the afternoon of October the 1st, President Tommy E. Rimangasao met with the representatives of the Sino-Esoteric Buddhism Association and exchanged friendly communications. The President put his hands together and bowed in front of the Master to be blessed and have the seed of wisdom planted. That afternoon, the Vajra Master Jinke Xuanlei and his disciples held a Sino-Esoteric Buddhism fire offering ritual in front of the Capitol building. The Master led Jinke disciples to walk around the Capitol building step by step while chanting esoteric mantras to set up the Jinke Mandala in preparation to pray for the Republic of Palau and to pray for world peace. As the ritualistic guards of honor marched on, guests attending the celebration were attracted by the mysterious Oriental Buddhist culture and gathered around to observe, taking pictures and eventually joining in. Applause and cheers mixed in with the sound of Dharma horns and drums reaching high into the clouds. On October 3rd, the Master invited the Prime Minister Cecil Elderbeshel and the President Assistant Van Isaac to the Palacia Hotel to present two Jinke Mandala esoteric paintings which were drawn by the Master personally. One is the Dragon of the East and the other is Wisdom of Vajra. Siddhartha reappears to protect the nation. During May of 1997 and April of 1998, the Vajra Master Jinke Xuanlei had two meetings with Mr. Zhao Puchu, Vice President of the CPPCC and President of the Buddhist Association of China. Mr. Zhao Puchu discussed with the Master in depth with regards to the lineage and practicing methods of Sino-Esoteric Buddhism. Also discussed were the contributions that Sino-Esoteric Buddhism has made towards protecting the nation and the benefits it had brought to its people throughout history. While immersed in the vast wisdoms of the Master, Mr. Zhao Puchu was also very excited to hear that Sino-Esoteric Buddhism hadn't perished. He projected far into the future and aimed high, with strategic goals of benefiting the nation and to bring happiness to its people. He earnestly entreated the Master, without the renaissance of Sino-Esoteric Buddhism, the prosperity of Chinese Buddhism will not be complete. The prosperity of Chinese Buddhism should include the renaissance of Sino-Esoteric Buddhism. I shall be waiting anxiously for the Master to bring back the Renaissance when all the conditions and dependent originations have been met. I wish with all my heart for Siddhartha to reappear and illuminate our nation. With his disciples, the Vajra Master Jinke Xuanlei visited the Shechen Monastery on June 29th of 2009, one of the 6 historical monasteries of the Nyingma school of Tibetan Buddhism, on the earnest invitation of the living Buddha Gyaltsab. Local Tibetans all welcomed the Master wholeheartedly wherever he went. They were filled with the joys of Dharma, showered the Master with kataks, and prostrated in hope that the Master would bless them by touching their heads. Hundreds of lamas, living Buddhas, and Rinpoches lined the road to welcome the arrival of the Master. The sound of Dharma horns reached high into the sky to welcome the first visit of the Dharmaraja of the Han region. The Master and the living Buddha Gyaltsab had deep discussions about matters regarding esoteric Buddhism in both the Han and Tibetan regions. The results were promising. This meeting will go down in history as the most significant event in the exchanges of esoteric Buddhism between the two regions. On December 29th of 2011, the living Buddha Drukung Tutan Kedrup, Standing Committee member of the CPPCC, the Vice President of the China's Buddhist Association, and the President of the Tibetan branch of China's Buddhist Association, visited the Vajra Master Jinke Xuanlei at the Lianyin Temple of Shangling in Guangxi. The Master and the Living Buddha discuss the issues of how to revive religious harmony among the different ethnic groups in Tibetan Autonomous Region, and thus promoting world peace. The Living Buddha Drukang happily said, "It is a great blessing for the community of Buddhism and all sentient beings that the lineage of Sino-esoteric Buddhism is not lost, and there is still a Mahasiddha among us. Propagating Sino-esoteric Buddhism is both beneficial for our nation and its people." Upon earnest request from the organising committee, the Vajra Master Jinke Xuanlei attended the 2013 Shoton Festival on August 6, being held in Lhasa Drepung Monastery. The Shoton Festival is one of the most significant and grandest holidays in Tibetan Buddhism and the regional people's life, with tens of thousands of believers from around the world coming to pay their prostration on this day. With the warmest welcome and earnest request from the Dharmacharyas, believers and staff, the majestic Vajra Master Jinke Xuanlei formed esoteric mudra with his hands, at the same time chanting the words of the Tathagata, the mysteries which are his body, speech and mind, all entering into samadhi. He then used the designated rituals from the esoteric Pitaka of the esoteric Buddhism mandala to show Dharma and to pray for the 5 Dhyani Buddhas to descend on the mandala, to enter the wisdom of the embodied nature of Dhammakaya, to bless all sentient beings with happiness and health. The Master prays for happiness and health to believers from around the world. May they be purified of all their evil deeds, increase their wisdom and happiness, find the right path to Buddha Dharma. Let fate be within destiny, and always remember to contribute towards promoting Buddhism for the solidarity amongst ethnic groups and to maintain social stability. On November 17th of 2011, the historical city of Xi'an was graced with the warmth of the sun and clear blue skies. The gloomy rain that had been falling for days was nowhere to be seen. The Vajra Master Jinke Xuanlei and his disciples attended the Symposium of Sino-Esoteric Buddhism Culture upon the invitation from Buddhism Research Department of the Northwest University. On the afternoon of the 18th, the Master gave a lecture on the topic of Sino-Esoteric Buddhism and a Harmonious Society at the Jinke Culture Hall of the Buddhism Research Department. PhDs, professors, teachers and students from the Northwest University, Shaanxi Normal University, Xi'an Technology University Traditional Culture Research Department, Northwestern University Buddhism Research Department, along with officials from the Department of Education, local entrepreneurs and elites from all walks of life gathered to listen to the brilliant expositions of the Master. The abbot of the Iron Buddha Monastery, Shi Yan Hong, with the warmest of greetings, invited the Vajra Master Jinke Xuanlei to present at the completion ceremony of the Iron Buddha Monastery, that is, the 9-Dragon Stupa consecration ceremony, on September 19th of 2009, before Kung Fu monks of Shaolin Temple and thousands of believers. The Vajra Master Jinke Xuanlei walked in grace towards the site of the ceremony. Greeting monks led the Master onto the center of the main hall in the temple to preside over the consecration ceremony. The Master prayed for Siddharma to always be present, people to always live in happiness and health, gracious weather all year round, stability for the nation and its people, and world peace. The enlightened Master reappears to benefit all willing. With the restoration and rebuilding of the ancient Lianyin Temple in Shanglin County of Guangxi Autonomous Region of China, the Vajra Master Jinke Xuanlei had bestowed all the merits, knowledge and wealth he had acquired in the past few decades to all sentient beings. This is for the propagation of Buddha Dharma and to give salvation to all through compassion and mercy. The Vajra Master Jinke Xuanlei will also lead his disciples to start the grand construction of the Jinke Mandala Culture Center, the ASEAN countries' peace-praying mandala, the Thousand Buddhas Cave and Medicine Buddha Pagoda, the construction of the ancient Pagoda Culture Park in Chaoyang District, Beijing, will include the restoration of the Temple of Guanyin, the Javita Temple, and 2 other temples, the World Peace-Praying Mandala, the Jinke Mandala Culture Center, Beijing Jinke Mandala Painting and Calligraphy Institute. Many other structures in the style of Buddhism will also be a part of the project. The efforts for these projects are to provide a pure land for all sentient beings to practice Buddha Dharma in equanimity and to benefit all humankind. The Vajra Master Jinke Xuanlei will spread the Buddha Dharma, which will bring salvation to all sentient beings. For this he will conquer many great difficulties and overcome all obstacles. He never cares about fame or fortune, always contributes in silence, and makes sacrifices when needed. He vows to extend the teachings of the Buddha to all sentient beings, for the rich or the poor, the high caste or low, no matter how hard or painful it will be to him. He will cleanse and enlighten the souls of all sentient beings for the benefit of the country and its people. He often says, "My greatest treasure comes from the awakening of sentient beings." The Vajra Master Jinke Xuanlei is a Mahasiddha of Holy Complete, with the Prajna sainthood of inner radiance enlightenment and the Sambhogakaya Nirvana. He is a great spiritual leader who has returned to the desire realm to honor his vows of compassion. He came down from the mountains to teach the essences of Sino-esoteric Buddhism, lost in history for more than 1,000 years. This treasure of China is now finally brought back into the eyes of the people in the hopes of leading mankind into obtaining true faith and find the right faith, the right insight, the right awareness, the right practice, and finally be awakened, which in turn will remove their troubles from the cycle of life and birth and finally achieve nirvana. The Vajra Master Jinke Xuanlei, a Mahasiddha, has immersed all his life and soul into the state of the Buddha Dharma and turned all his merits, vows, wisdom, compassion, and mercy towards all sentient beings. He will cleanse and enlighten the souls of all the sentient beings, bring hope to all by showing the way to enlightenment, teach wisdom to all. For those who wish to profess to the Buddha Dharma in hope of reaching enlightenment, he will give them courage to progress rapidly in the practice of Buddha Dharma, to practice the 6 paramitas in everyday life, to end all their sufferings and sorrows, stand still the cycle of rebirth for those who wish to be reborn in the pure land of Vajrayana, located in the center of the universe. He who has come from history will eventually return to history. Om Namo Mahavarakana of the East. Om Namo True Dharmakaya Jinyin Buddha of the East. Om Namo Sakyamuni Buddha. Om Namo Amitabha. Ankala Yekaso.